Hey y'all, my name is Christian. I'm a millennial, and this is the Millennial Mind. Millennials get a bad rap for being lazy, non productive members of society. We also get told that our opinions are warped and don't matter. This podcast is designed to express a point of view on the world as a whole, but from a millennial's perspective. I will talk about love, current events, pretty much everything that comes to mind. Come join me on this journey on speaking my mind, and I would love for you to speak your mind as well. This podcast is sponsored by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, even on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, you can download the Anchor app, that's ANCHOR, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of The Millennial Mind. Thank you again for joining me on another episode. Like I say all the time, I definitely do not take it lightly. And thank you for joining me on this journey and speaking my mind. And I hope I'm allowing all of you collectively to speak your mind as well. So I'm going to get right into the topic. It's actually called To Baby or Not to Baby. And it's based off a situation that happened to me last week. So this is a funny story. So, as you know, if you can't tell from the title, I'm a millennial, so my mindset's a little bit different from that of my parents who are baby boomers. So, if you haven't noticed lately, baby boomers are starting to have grandkids if they haven't had them already. So, my parents, of course, who are baby boomers, have been begging for grandkids, especially once I got married. Well, really, it really started to take effect when I got married, I should say. So they've been saying like, oh, we can't wait till we have grandkids. You know, every time I get sick, my dad's like, oh, are you pregnant? Like, it's really bad with my parents. Like, they have baby fever like nobody's business, okay? So they've been begging for grandkids. Me, I'm not really sure as to whether or not I want kids. I'll just say that. I took a quiz on it, just Googled a quiz like, do I want to have kids? And even the quiz said that you're confused. So I'm like, okay, well, at least, I'm on target there. But I'm in a confused state as to whether or not I want kids. I feel like I if I have them, then maybe it'll be too much for me at the stage of my life that I'm in now. But then I feel like if I don't have them, then I'll regret it in the future. And then also, I don't want to deprive my husband of having kids, even though he's never been the type to say like, oh yeah, we don't have kids, I'm gonna leave you. He's basically stating, oh, it's your choice. If we have kids, cool. If we don't have them, cool. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to make that decision pretty soon, as to whether or not I want to have kids. So that's like my whole mindset. So when my parents are saying like, oh, we can't wait to have grandkids, it's like, well, who you gonna get them from? It's not gonna be from me. At least not now. So I think I've kind of like uh, inhibited their dreams. I'm sorry, parents. I'm so sorry. Now, on the other hand, my brother, my lovely brother, who is a couple years younger than me, actually welcomed a daughter over the weekend. A beautiful baby girl. She's 6 pounds, 6 pounds, 12 ounces, just adorable. Like, this is my first niece from my brother, of course, because this is his first child. So I am like in love. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to spoil this girl. I just can't wait. So with my brother having this baby and matching that up with my parents' baby fever that they're having, they were just over the moon. It was like, oh, we're so happy. Oh, we finally have a grandchild. Oh, it's like, okay. It's like, all right. Okay. But, yeah, they're very excited because this is, of course, their first grandchild. So, last week, it was actually last weekend, I was talking to my mom about it, and she said how she's so happy that she has a grandchild finally. And then this next part that she said just kind of took me out, okay? So I'm going to say verbatim what she said. She said, now I just need for you to have a grandchild for me. Rewind the tape. What? What? So once I got over the shock of her actual statement, I then started to process what she was actually saying, or what she had actually said. She said that she needed me. So need like this wasn't a want. This was a need. Like, you need food and water to survive. She needed me to have a baby for her. So it was a necessity for her that I have a baby. Not for my own well-being or satisfaction, but for her own well-being and satisfaction. So once I processed what she was saying, I was like, mama, are you serious? Like, do you hear yourself right now? Like, do you hear what you just said? And then she said, oh, Christian, you're just being so selfish. I'm the one that's selfish? I'm the one that's being selfish right now? Like, did you hear the words that just came out your mouth? Like, really? You want me, not want, you need from me. Like, you need air and water to survive. You need for me to have a baby for you. But I'm the one that's being selfish. Okay. I was just cracking up with that. And I love my mom. And I know that she was like 25% joking, but 75% she was dead serious. She was so serious. But I love my mom, so this is all out of love. But this kind of got me thinking about millennials as a whole and their mindset as far as having children. And I was thinking, am I the only one not really thinking about having kids? Clearly, I am not. Okay, so I spoke to a lot of my friends, colleagues, and some of my family members who are millennials, and kids are the furthest thing from their mind. Like, these people just be kicking it, okay? You know, from getting their career together to traveling solo for that matter. You know, kids are just not in their minds right now. And these people, they range from, you know, mid 20s to mid 30s, you know, not having kids and not thinking about kids. So that was just interesting. It was just interesting and kind of, what's the word that I'm trying to use? It made me feel better that there are other people who have the same mindset that I have. And clearly, this is an epidemic. I read an article in which the Center for Disease Control and Prevention did a little survey, and in 2017, about 3.8 million babies were born in the United States, which is 2% lower than the number born in 2016, and the lowest recorded number of births in 30 years. So in 2017, the amount of babies that were being had was the lowest in 30 years. So from 1987 to 2017, people were popping out kids, but in 2017, there started to be a slight decline. I shouldn't even say that. It probably happened before that. Before 2017, you know, within that time period between 1987 and 2017, you started to see that decline. But in 2017, it just hit an all-time low. So there's a lot of people not having kids out here. What's more, and this is just a continuation of the statistics that was in the article, there were about 60 births per 1,000 women ages 15 to 44, which is 3% lower than the rate in 2016, and the lowest recorded rate since the government started tracking birth rates in 1909. That is crazy. So there are less and less women that are giving birth, and it seemed, and within that age frame, and it looks like more women are actually waiting longer to have children. So they're waiting until they get older. I've heard some women are waiting to like their 40s to have children. So a lot of people my age are just not having kids. The decline in the U.S. birth rate from 2016 to 2017 was the largest single year drop since 2010. So as you can see, that decline is just steadily going down and down and down. And I wonder, within the next few years, like, would there be more of a decline? Like, would it be an enormous decline? Or will it just be a slight decline? Or is it going to go back up? Are people going to start having kids? It's just, you know, something to think about and something really interesting to see. So, why is this the case? Why are millennials, and I'll be more specific, millennial women, why is there such a decline within our generation with having kids? Why aren't we just popping out kids like rabbits? Why aren't we doing it? Well, I came up with a few reasons, and if you have more reasons, I would love for you to comment or send me an email just letting me know your thoughts. But I came up with a few reasons. Number one, they're expensive. Okay? So so I heard one individual say, and I think this was an expert that stated that most new parents spend anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a year just to take care of their baby. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know how true that is, but I'm sure that a majority of those funds are being used for diapers. I'm sure of it because I've been looking at the prices of diapers and they ain't cheap. I'll say that. Babies are expensive. You know why? Because they're little humans. Humans are expensive in and of itself. So just imagine having a little human and then you're stuck with this little human for 18 plus years. So, yeah, having kids is super expensive. Shout out to the millennial mothers who have kids right now and who are holding it down. You know, I salute you. I'll just say that. But on the flip side, there are millennial women who just can't afford having kids. You know, it's enough trying to take care of ourselves. Not to mention adding another human to the mix that depend on you for everything. Okay? So that's one reason. Another reason is a lot of millennials seem to be more career driven than family driven. You see a lot of millennials that are focused on their career, and they're waiting until they get older in order to start a family, to get married, to have kids. Like some are waiting until 35, like early to mid 30s, in order to, focus on a family. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with focusing on your career and then having a family and vice versa. Whatever works for you. But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, it seems like more millennials, they just want to establish themselves first before starting a family. Another reason is that maybe they don't have the capacity to have kids because maybe that they have some kind of sickness. There's millennials who have fibroid issues where they have to get a hysterectomy and get, their whole reproductive system taken out. There's individuals who, if they would get pregnant, they will be considered high risk because maybe they have heart disease or any other disease where if there's a human growing inside of them, it could cause that disease to flare up. It's it's just a lot of things that could go into that health wise, that would cause a person not to have kids at this stage in their lives. Another reason is that maybe, and this is, I think this may be like a large part of millennials, they just don't want to have kids. I've ran into a lot of individuals who say they just do not want to have kids. They have made up in their minds they don't want to have kids. They just, don't want the trouble. They don't want to mess up their body. It's various reasons why they don't want to have kids, but they just don't want to have them. So those are just a few of the reasons that I could think of as to why millennials are not having children and why the birth rate has gone down significantly with millennials. I would love to hear your reasons as well. Now, just as a disclaimer, I'm not saying that anyone who has kids and who is a millennial are somehow bad or abnormal. I'm just talking about my own experience and the data provided that talks about the majority of millennials and their mindsets on kids. So if you're a millennial and you have a child, that's completely fine. Like I was saying, I salute you. I take my hat off to you because I know it's a struggle, or I can imagine that it's a struggle raising a child as a millennial in the world that we live in today. So I salute you. And there's nothing wrong with having kids as a millennial. On the flip side, there just are millennials who don't want to have kids, and there's nothing wrong with that either. You know, whatever works for your life, you only have one life, live it the way you want to live it. If you want to have kids, cool. If you don't want to have kids, that's cool too. And for whatever reason you do or don't want to have kids, that's up to you and that's your prerogative. There's nothing wrong with that. So, yes, so that's the whole episode. I wanted to give you all that funny story, that funny interaction between me and my mom, and then give you a little data on this whole baby situation with millennials. It's just really interesting. And before I let you go, I wanted to give you all a quote that you can think about. And it is the following: stop asking women when are they getting pregnant. Because endometriosis, because PCOS, because other fertility issues, because miscarriages, because they can't afford to, because mental health, because congenital heart defects, because they don't want to, because it's none of your business. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little bit short, but I think it was right to the point. If you have any comments or questions or topic ideas that you would love to send to me, send them to me at mindofmillennials@gmail.com. Also, make sure to like our Facebook page, The Millennial Mind, and you can listen to this episode as well as previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Pocket Casts. I also want to thank my sponsor, Anchor, for sponsoring this episode. Until next time, I will see you all later.